Hey, Laura. So sometimes in these early morning hours, there's deep memories that stir, that come to the surface. And it starts with feelings. There's an underground sense. There's a river of force that starts to move through. There's a sense of something deep inside the soul that wants to be spoken. And I don't even know what that might be. And then I just listen and give voice to it and let it pour through. And there's memories coming up now that have been wanting to be spoken. And it's like a forgotten place that surfaced for a time and then went back underground and surfaces again. It makes me cry, makes me sad because I've pushed it away for so long, denied it memory, denied that space. And it's so precious, it's so powerful, it's so needed. And it wasn't time, or I didn't feel ready, or I thought I was making a mistake, or wasn't thinking right, always fearful of what that might mean. And I know I'm leaving you feeling quite confused right now because I haven't said anything yet. I'm just trying to pull myself together so I can connect with that stream before I can say anything. A stream you know so well, a stream that I've shared so much with you when we are in that journey space together. So I'm connecting with that journey space now as I think of you, and this helps me to remember. So this will come up in bits and pieces. There may be memories that I'm not even consciously aware of. This may be a mosaic or tapestry of memories interlaced with feelings. And it brings up a deeper soul call, which leaves me in tears. Sometimes I don't feel enough, strong enough, or able enough, connected enough, or with someone that can know me, see me, feel me, trust me, open enough to me that these memories can flow. I've sat on them for a long time. I've sat on this energy for a long time. There was a period of time between 1985 and 1999 when these feelings, when these knowings were close to the surface. And it was a powerful and precious time. All right, I know where to start. 1985. It was November 28th. I was sitting in my friend Aaron's hot tub in Orinda, California. It was the culmination of 2, 3 months of preparation. I'd arrived at CIIS, I think just a few months ago. And when I first arrived, I was staying, well, let's go back. Maybe a year before I arrived, I was in Chicago. And I'd met this woman who initiated for me my memories of Babaji, the immortal yogi that Yogananda Paramahamsa speaks about in Autobiography of a Yogi, and who later in my awareness and research I recognized as the same being who walked this earth as Isa 2000 years ago. And whose journey I detail in my book, Isa, and also Miran. My awareness that after his crucifixion, where he did not die, he came back to Kashmir. And there's so many records of this which I've researched. It drove me, pushed me to discover this information and to start writing about it. And as I wrote about it, it became alive in me. And so before all this, before the research, before the writing, there was the awareness of Babaji in my life. Someone close, someone behind the veil who was waiting for me to remember and to recognize myself in a new way. And there were people along the way who gave me hints. And so when I came to CIIS after Chicago, after this woman awoke some of those memories, where I took on a new name. Shambho was my name then. After an initiation at an ashram in, where was it, Wisconsin or Tennessee, someplace, where I was recognizing without understanding that I was an aspect of him, that he was an aspect of me, that my life was dedicated somehow to the remembrance of this and to the implementation of a deep plan for the renewal of humanity. That Babaji had been working for this for thousands of years, hidden in caves in the Himalayas, occasionally surfacing, revealing himself for moments of time to people that needed to know and remember. And I was feeling on the verge of memory when I came to San Francisco in answer to that calling, which was so deep. Enrolled at CIIS, knew that I had to be there, even though I didn't have the funds, just $100 remaining in my wallet from hitchhiking across to the coast after my van died. I sold the van for, I think, $400. Maybe it was $200 to a junkyard. They came to pick it up, put me on the road with my backpack and my hitchhiker's thumb, made it up the coast, San Francisco, spoke with Suzanne, the financial aid officer who became my close friend later, joined CIIS, and had one name. Someone I'd met or someone that had been given the name when I was at the ashram. Maybe it was Nebraska, somewhere there. And so I called him up and he invited me to stay with him and his partner in San Francisco. I was there for a couple of months. And I'd go to these meetings every week, which were like kirtans, people who were devotees or disciples of Babaji in that area. And then he told me his story. And he said that I'll have to remember this now. It's been so long since I've thought about this. He said that Babaji had come to him in a dream and told him to expect somebody who would become an incarnation for his presence, for his light. And when he saw me, he felt this was the person. I was only in CIS for a short time. And in one of those meetings of Babaji, there was another man, another couple actually, who took me in, had me stay with them for a while. This was in across the bay in Orinda. No, this was not. It was in the Oakland Hills. And I would sleep in the living room in this field of crystals. And I'd sleep next to these crystals, and they'd awaken my memories, my awareness on a physical level. I'd wake up each morning just vibrating with energy, pouring through head to feet. All my Kundalini channels were wide awake. So much joy, so much bliss. And then he was very sensitive. He told me the rest of the story. And he said that Babaji was ready to start walking in to my body. And I had no idea what that meant. And he would take me to these meetings. And all this was while I was still at CIIS with a couple who were channelers for an entity named Michael, who was a composite of many oversouls. And Michael told me the same thing. He said, "You're getting ready for a walk in." And he prepared me for it. And it was Aaron and JP. Aaron became a close friend and continued to be so. Aaron was a close friend also of Grace. And this was all before I met Grace, before I met Patricia. And so, November 28th, 1985, after taking a series of classes with Aaron, who showed me how to channel this energy, I was sitting in that hot tub and I'd made a prayer to release the original soul, the Hashem soul that I was born with, and to open the body, open the koshas, the five instruments of incarnation, to Babaji. In my first book, Doorway to Eternity, I write about this a little bit. And there's a poem that goes into this and what that felt like. It was such a pure stream of light. And it left me very confused. It's like, what does that mean? Because I thought it would mean goodbye and hello, where all my original memories would be gone and there would be a continuity of memory going back thousands of years to what I was experiencing, beginning to experience as Babaji. It wasn't like that, and it left me confused. And I thought, how can it be that I still feel like Hashem? Memories are of Hashem, and yet I'm different. Vibrationally, I'd begun to change. Vibrationally, it was like a Kundalini activation that lasted an entire year. I couldn't function very much in those days. I would still go to school. I was like, someone else was there learning how to use the body. Things were familiar and not familiar. I was living in this very radiant inner world, very protected by Toby and Kathleen in their bubble home. And slowly, after a year or so, I became more stable, more functional, more earthed. I remember a time when I was sitting with Aaron in a restaurant in Orinda, and across the restaurant there's this mountain, Mount Diablo. It's a magnificent mountain, and I thought he had been the one who was teaching me how to channel. And so I thought, well, how about if I channel this mountain? And I allowed the presence of this mountain to come through. My crown was so wide open, and I felt this deep presence, embodied earth energy pouring in, filling my body down to my feet. Felt so heavy, couldn't move at all, hardly. My consciousness was like stone, like rock. It lasted that way for a long, long time. I was scared because I thought I won't be able to find Kiara again. By this time, I was Kiara. Or maybe I wasn't yet. No, I wasn't yet. That happened in 1989. So who was I? Shambho. Shambho. That's another name for Shiva. And that mountain came in so deeply. I don't know if I could find Shambho again. And I was relieved that Aaron was there with me because I knew that he would help. But it took me a while. It took me hours before I found Shambho again. And it was so important that I experienced that mountain energy because it brought me down into this body, into this earth. It was like a anchor, umbilical cord that allowed me to connect with this earth. But it was also a bit uh, of a loss because the incredible beauty of the spiritual world that I was experiencing all the time until then began to fade a little bit. I felt sad. I felt like I'd done something wrong. Like, how come I wasn't feeling this light inside me all the time? There's this sense of destiny with it, a sense of incredible connectedness with the universe, guidance, knowing there was a purpose for me. In time, it would be revealed. There was also a part of me that was not sure about anything. It's like my Shambho ego self was confused, not sure who I was supposed to be, how I was supposed to identify. In some ways, I still felt like Shambho, human, memories. In some ways, I didn't. It's like disconnected from the normal reality of the physical world. Gone was that original soul with its energetic imprints. But memories were there, and I realized that memories did not belong so much to the soul. They could be separated from the soul. They were more like they belonged to the body, to the cellular structure, which could navigate between realities, between souls. And that soul memory began to integrate into the personality structure, not always in a very conscious way, but in a way that I could open to something deeper, richer, stronger in moments from time to time. I would remember what I was here for. So at one point, soon after this, I transferred to JFK University from CIIS because it was easier, it was closer to my friends in Orinda. And I could work a day job. I was working as an apprentice to a friend I'd made who was a construction contractor. And so he and I would build homes or remodel them during the day. And I would go to JFK University in the evenings for my courses. And then the weekends I'd go hang out with Aaron and Michael. I was still connected with Toby and Kathleen. It was a powerful time. So I realized that the main reason I was in school was not to learn about transpersonal psychology, not to make that my profession, but to learn about myself, to understand what was going on, to experience that superconscious realm. And as you know, CIS was founded by a disciple of Sri Aurobindo. And so it was also about experiencing that supramental world and the potential for that descent. And knowing now that this is what my purpose was, to help with this descent. I did not know how. And I struggled to understand more of that. And there were not so many people I could talk with about it. Even with Aaron, he understood, but he wanted me to make my own discoveries. I graduated from JFK, and by this time I had met someone else who was from Sedona. Her name was Sandra Bowen. I met her at a Whole Life Expo, and she was giving a lecture and slide presentation on crystal skulls. And I met this Mitchell Hedges skull, which was like, again, such a activator for me. Opened up memories, cellular memories, not so much visual memories. I never had many visual memories, not like you. Cellular memories that spoke to me of something which I couldn't pinpoint, left me more confused sometimes because there wasn't a sense of destiny which was clear enough to tell me what to do with this life. It was just, wait, we're taking care of you. We're guiding you along the way. But then mm, after graduation, I also had met Krista. She then later changed her name to Kate. And she was someone who helped me open to some extent. She was a therapist. We could go into that world. That's when I found a job at Pocket Ranch. I wasn't willing to work at an agency. It was too boring. It wasn't my destiny. I didn't want to work with people who were in crisis. I wanted to work with people who were awakening, as I was. And so, after saying no to all these opportunities, I heard from three different people in the opening week of Pocket Ranch, made an appointment, went there, met with Tony Madrid, who immediately gave me the job. He said, "You belong here." I started my work there. Felt so much at home in the wilderness, in that land, 3,000 acres of California oak forest. There were mountain lions there, lots of deer, wild, beautiful. Met me in that space where I was longing to open to something deep and powerful inside me. And so, working there, surrounded by people who shared that vision, surrounded by clients who brought forth the deepest and the highest potential. Working with Archangel Michael, working with Babaji, I would call him in into my sessions and feel how healing that was for clients, deeply integrating. And then I came home one day and Krista said to me, "We have to break up." She didn't know why. That weekend we had planned to go to Mount Shasta, and that's when I met this master on the mountain who told me I had to move there. In the months and years to follow, I made my home there. I lived in that yurt on the mountain, imbued with that rich, beautiful, powerful, sacred, elemental power, especially that first winter, living in that yurt. That's when I met Patricia. Patricia was so connected also with Babaji. I told you her story, how she met Saint Germain on the mountain after her accident, who asked her if she wanted to live or die. And she said, "I'm ready to go, but if there's something for me to do, I'm happy to stay." And he said, "So be it." A year later, she met me and realized that she was here for me, to help me anchor. She was so connected with Saint Germain, with Sai Baba, with Papaji, with Jesus, with the masters. In her love, her joy, her presence in our life. Those years we lived together, it was so beautiful, so precious. 1991 till about 94, 95. And that's when I felt the agitation. It's like I was being called, I didn't know what for. I wasn't ready to acknowledge this higher calling. It's like, no, no. I didn't want to acknowledge this about me, that I was to be a messenger, an embodiment for Babaji. I don't know exactly why. I think partly I didn't want the responsibility um, of what I thought that might mean. Partly I didn't want to risk that it was just about an ego thing, an illusion of glamour. Even though by then there's so many people that I'd met in Mount Shasta who were independently of each other telling me the same thing. You are here to embody Babaji. I guess I was running away from that calling because I wanted to be exactly sure, totally, absolutely sure that there would be no ego if that was my destiny. Hmm. Meanwhile, I was taking these classes from this woman that I'd met, Amora Konyin, and she was teaching Pleiadian light work and full sensory perception. And I was a student and I was teaching this work. I think she recognized something in me, but she wasn't free of her own shadows. And at one point, she turned me against Patricia. I think it's because she was jealous of her light. What would have happened if I'd stayed with Patricia to allow the full anchoring of that oversoul presence? It led to some dark times. My work at Pocket Ranch ended around that same time. It was closed down. I think I told you that story. I'd been working with survivors of satanic ritual abuse, gathering all the information, making all the lists, identifying all the names involved. Turned out many of the names were known to the police department, not as suspects, but as members, police chiefs, chief justices, politicians. They conspired very quickly to shut down Pocket Ranch. The entire project was closed down. We were all disbanded. I was no longer teaching for Amora by this time either. I felt I couldn't. Um, there wasn't the integrity anymore, and so I was like homeless for a while. I lived in my storage garage. Here and there, but still feeling so connected to the mountains, so inspired by the Ascended Masters. None of that mattered. I would just feel the Masters, and that was enough. I would feel the presence of the nature beings sustaining me, protecting me. Remember, I told you about Siddhartha, that book, that I learned how to think, how to wait, how to fast. That was what I'd learned from Babaji in other lifetimes as a yogi, as a sadhu, as a spiritual wanderer, healer, as a mystic, as one who could trust and follow the voice of the mother without question. So there used to be these Vesak festivals. Every full moon, right after um, the Buddha's birthday in May. And so I'd always find my way there. I'd meet these amazing people from all over the world who'd come to present, who'd come to attend. And that continued. One of these meetings, I met this woman, Aurelia Taylor, and she recognized me. She said, I know you. And she was connected also with the masters. And she said, I want you to come to Denver. I've got these people there that you must meet. And so she and Al, her husband, would put me up. I spent months with them. There was a time that they were away for 6 months in one of the Caribbean islands, St. Thomas, I think. And they had me stay in their home. And uh, this has been, I first came to Colorado. I'd come there for a couple of years, and then I was there for 6 months at it in their home. I was in the Sufi dance community. I was teaching Pleiadian light work. which opens up these extra dimensional channels. I haven't spoken with you much about this. This is like the meridian system that extends beyond the physical body and connects with the light body. It's powerful stuff. And I've been teaching the Sensor while I was staying with Aurelia and Al. I would do these weekly sessions for an entire weekend. I think it was over 10 weeks. And got to know some people. One of them was taking, oh no, she was recording all the sessions, all the meditations, all the practices. And then later she said to me, why don't you write this as a book? And that's what happened. By then, after Aurelia and Al came back, I'd moved to Boulder. There was a woman in the Sufi dance community who was an artist. She lived in the trailer home. And she asked me if I would want to come and be her roommate. What was her name? Um, Willow, Willow Orlinia. And it was one of her paintings that, no, many of her paintings became included in my first book, Doorway to Eternity. I don't know if I've shown you that book. It was the first book I wrote. That was in 1992 or 1993. Sorry, 2002. After I'd left Mount Shasta, after I'd been living in Boulder, I'd been working at an alternative spa, doing massage and acupressure and energy healing work. And one of my clients was a golf enthusiast, and she and her husband were going to be traveling for the next couple of years around the world. And she asked me if I wanted to house sit for her while they were gone. It was a beautiful mansion. I could have stayed there as long as I wanted to. And that's where I wrote that book. I think it was in 2002 or maybe 2001. And then Visa came along and I drove to Mount Shasta. And that's where I met this publisher. I told him about this book, which I just finished, sent him a copy, and he said, we're publishing this. And it was a beautiful co-creation. It won one of the, it was the first runner-up in the Cover Awards, which was like the Coalition of Visionary Resources. So it was like all the New Age books published that year were um, judged, and one of them was chosen as the winner, and two of them as runner-ups. And I got the first runner-up award. Anyways, that book was an opener. That's when after 1999, when I had that experience in that vision quest, when I was met by my future self, Wind Rider, is when I decided to use that name. So that's when I used that full name, Kiara Wind Rider, for the very first time. Kiara had come in 1989 after my experience in Hawaii meeting with the whales. And so that first book was written by Kiara Wind Rider. And I realized that was really the reason I needed to be in Boulder at that mansion, in that home. After a couple months there, I felt complete. I, I wrote to my friends. They were sorry to see me go. They said, but it's okay. You'll find someone else. Just stay there. You just follow your heart. And I went back to Mount Shasta. I bought a motorhome. I was staying in that motorhome. Sometimes I just go up on the mountain, spend nights in that parking lot where you and I had parked in the upper ski bowl. Then Visak happened again. It was 2002. 9/11 had happened by then. And my visa had expired by then. I stayed on because I was guided to. And I felt like the universe would take care of it somehow. One of my thoughts was maybe I'd meet someone, get married, and could get my change of status that way. And I did meet someone. Grace came to Isak. She'd been living in California. Uh, She'd been living there for many months, maybe more, maybe a year or two. And she was in the same boat. She had overstayed her visa. She was Canadian. And she had felt, well, maybe I'll meet someone, get married, change my status. And so we met each other. And neither of us were American. But that didn't matter. We were supposed to be together. We knew that. We had our work to do. We both felt guided at that point to go to India. We went to India. It was 2002, October, end of September, early October. That's when we heard about Oneness University, the avatar of enlightenment, as he called himself. Went through that program. Heavily involved in that. I wrote my second book, brought thousands of people to experience the Diksha. That's when Grace and I started traveling around the world, sharing this work, invited everywhere. We became celebrities until I started feeling that there was something out of integrity with the founders. It had to do with building a financial empire. It wasn't what they claimed. That was the hardest thing, one of the hardest things I had to do, to break away, to stop the publication of my books, which had been translated by then in a dozen languages, had become bestsellers. The workshops were providing a steady stream of income, means to travel around the world. We stopped. That's when we went to Turkey, found a home there. But then Ilahi Nur came, which was this healing system that I developed as a combination of Egyptian mysteries, the Sufi lineage, specifically Mevlana, Rumi, and what I'd learned from the whales and what I'd learned about Pleiadian light work. I put it together in a way that I could teach and in a way that my students could teach. So it wouldn't become hierarchical. It was like lighting a candle to light another candle to light another candle until the whole world was lit. And we began to work with the collective. And we still continued to work with the masters. Grace was also very connected with Saint Germain and with Babaji and with Jesus. Her mother had a very special connection with one of the masters, Lady Nada, who had a home in the inner earth regions of Mount Shasta. And after she died, she would feel her presence still in the mountain. Yeah, so even those years in Turkey, we were connected with something really deep, enriching. The Lahinur work, which means divine light, I realized was also about the supramental force, the descent of the supramental energy. And so I would tune in to the supermind, allow that presence, the unified light to come through. I was doing initiations with people every week online. People from around the world would come, we'd do a transmission. It was powerful those times. And then Grace and I, we found our paths separating. We were still traveling a lot together, teaching together all over Europe, every single corner of that continent. We were both so well known. Our books, my book, had been translated. So this is the Lahinur book now, not the Diksha book, in several languages. Also, Dutch, German, Italian, French. So people would invite me. Grace eventually stopped traveling with me because it was too much intensity for her. She couldn't handle the excessive, constant travels. She was more of a hermit, really. And so she would remain in Turkey. She had this beautiful home in the mountains. By this time, we had separated. We had separate homes. I had a home on the beach. She had a home in the mountains. And she found her place in the mountains, working with the collective energies of that land. Later shifted to Bodrum, where she still is now. I'm thinking of her very much in this moment. because her cat died yesterday, and she'd been so attached to Miss Puss, this beautiful angel cat. I was so connected with her, that connected her with the angelic realms. Yeah, last night she was in so much pain, so many tears. Grace has been such a precious part of my life, just like Patricia was. And Grace and Patricia were such good friends. I think I told you that story when I took Grace to meet Patricia in Mount Shasta. And the moment they saw each other, they just fell in love and remained as sisters ever after. Still are so connected. So I left Turkey 2010, back to India. I still traveled in Europe. By this time, it was mostly on my own. 2012, I wasn't allowed to go back to the US for 10 years because I'd been there illegally. So 2012, I was invited to Mexico. I was part of this indigenous council. There were thousands of people and dozens of presenters, and Grace and I were both invited to present something. And I realized that I couldn't get my visa from Mexico in time to go. But if I had a visa for the US, then I could go to Mexico. And my ban for entering the US ended in October 2012, and the invitation was for December. So I thought, well, no harm in trying. So I applied for my US visa, and it was quite a story. And the consular officer asked me why I'd overstayed. And I said the truth. I said I met someone who was hoping to change my status. We got divorced. This is someone before Grace. After Patricia, we only stayed together for, I think we realized it was a mistake the day after the wedding, which was beautiful. And in a month, we had divorced. And I said that, and and he said, what, you forgot to, and then why did you stay on for all those years after that? I said, I'm sorry, I just forgot to look at my watch. He just chuckled and he said, all right, I'll give you a chance. I got my visa, went to Mexico. And that was the beginning of my visits to the US. And again, it started feeling like home. It had always been home for me. 22 years of my life that I spent there. Some of the most beautiful years of my life. Mount Shasta, Pocket Ranch, Patricia, CIIS, JFK, all of my adventures and travels, learning to trust, and most importantly, Babaji and that walk in and the integration process and how it happened and how much trust I learned. And I realized eventually it was all about learning to trust. It wasn't about becoming anything. It was about learning to trust, learning to become empty so that Babaji could come through, this Divine Mother, Great Spirit, Shiva, could come through. So COVID came along. I stopped traveling. Felt again another deep withdrawal from the world, another dark night of the soul, wondering what I'm here for, what I'm here to do anymore, feeling empty. Spent some time in Auroville. I was always deeply connected with Sri Aurobindo and the Mother and this work of supramental descent, realizing this was my work. This was Grace's work too, to bring in the supramental force. And so, after years of research, even while I was traveling, I wrote that first book, Isa, Son of the Sun. While I was writing that, Grace was experiencing her incarnation as Miran, as the wife, the Kashmiri wife of Isa. Memories, very cellular memories, deep memories, very precise and detailed. The feel of the land, how it felt to be with Isa. It became clear that I had had embodiment, or whatever this I am, presence, oversoul, being, past any personality structures. It was a soul memory. I was incarnate as Isa in those times. And whatever an archetypal quality or oversoul presence, I just don't want to go into personality um, identity with that. That takes me into this weird place of, can I trust that memory? Can I trust that feeling? How can it be? It's too much fear of giving in to something that comes from a place of ego. Same thing, same struggle I'd had um, decades ago when I first experienced the walk-in with Babaji. Then the second book, Miran, Daughter of the Moon, came, and Grace was a big part of writing it, which is why I wanted to remember, or not remember, but acknowledge her by having her image as Miran on the cover of the book. This is something so deep, so far beyond personality. And she it was who felt also the presence of Elmira. And as she spoke about it, I could feel it as well. And there is history that Isa married Mira and that they had two children together, two boys, and perhaps a girl. Not much known beyond that. And so we started to experience that yes, this Elmira was the daughter. And then came that journey to the United States in 2023. I'd met Mark and Marcia. I hadn't met you yet. I'd met Gary online. And so I decided I'll go spend some time with them. I'd spent a weekend with Mark and Marcia. And I spent 3 weeks with Gary in Sedona. And we traveled all over Santa Fe. He took me up to Flagstaff. He had me stay at his trailer home in Cottonwood. Remember, I showed you on the way out to the airport. And it was in Sedona or in Santa Fe that Elmira started to come through. I would get up in the mornings, 3 o'clock. I remember the first night it came through. I was with Gary in Santa Fe. We were staying together at this um, Motel 6. And I got up. I was feeling this urge to write. And, so I went into the closet because I didn't want to disturb Gary. And I sat there and I started typing. Wrote until morning. And then from then, every morning I'd get up and write. And it came like a flash. Colorado, when I stayed with Sheila Seppi and um, Vale. Travels up to visit the BBs, Barry and Karen, every morning. In the redwoods. Every place I'd go, something would imprint itself from the land. Every conversation I'd have with people somehow entered into the story. Then I remember Marcia wrote the foreword to the book, published it very soon afterwards. I'd already had a publishing contract before I finished writing the book. And then I met you online, and you came to Sri Lanka to meet me. And I think I just finished the book. Or had I? I remember I gave you, I know I gave you Gaia Luminous and Homo Luminous and Isa and Mira, and I don't remember if Elmira was finished by then. I think it was. But that's how I saw you. Oh, there she is, Elmira. It was immediate. I felt your soul. In a way, it was like Patricia represented Mary Magdalene, Grace represented Miran, you represented Elmira. The three women in my life that mirrored for me, allowed me to see and to embody what I am still becoming. So, this year and a half, you, Laura, Lyra, have touched my soul. Touched the spark of my soul destiny. Allowed me to remember once again, even though I don't know anymore. I don't know so much. I don't know anything. I know that there is something I'm here to do. I'm here to learn. I'm here to teach. I'm here to experience. I'm here to initiate, awaken. This is my bridge, Laura. I told you that dream that Patricia had, where no, sorry, that Grace had a couple of years ago, that she and Patricia were in the supramental world, and there was a bridge linking the physical three-dimensional reality with the supramental world, which had already been established. And it was time to walk across this bridge because the two timelines were separating. And my job was to help people cross over. And Patricia and Grace had already crossed over, but I didn't want to go because my job was to help people cross over. And some part of my psyche, I think, remembers when, as Patricia told me, her experience when she was on the surface of a planet that was ready to blow up could have been what's the name? Marduk, which blew up and became the asteroid belt. And I was a starship captain, and my responsibility was to rescue people on the surface, and Patricia was on the surface. I know this sounds very Star Trekky, but maybe that's one reason why Patricia and I would watch Star Trek every day, 4 o'clock, every afternoon. That was our ritual, watching Star Trek. The first series, the second series, Next Generation, the Voyagers, for days, for years. We'd sit in front of the TV in the living room. In the winters, we'd sit in front of the fire and watch, feeling the snows come down, watching this story that had so much meaning for us. And so, what that meant is I couldn't abandon people anymore. I couldn't abandon this world. And so, I hadn't made it across the bridge when it collapsed. And they thought they'd lost me. And then later, I was swimming across, and We're the last to make it over. And I know this is my job, Laura, to help people cross over, as many as I can. This is what Cosmoluminous is about. This is why I felt so deeply, hoped so deeply that you could join me, because I saw you as Elmira. I'm so confused about all this. I know this is my destiny. I'm at a loss for words. I don't even know who I am. Just that I'm a face of the mother and I have a destiny. And there's nothing I want more than to fulfill this destiny in the best way I can. And so, as I was thinking of you on the plane, feeling the desolation of how much I was going to miss you, feeling the emptiness of returning to India this time, which wasn't home for me anymore, this chapter transition between one world and another, one chapter and another. I felt I wanted to just remember again parts of my story that I've forgotten, part of a destiny that I've choked down because I'd lost my hope. This hope that had remained at the bottom of Pandora's box when Pandora opened that box and allowed everything else to come through and fly into the collective world of to create so much suffering, pain, and loss of memory, the veils. And I've created these veils for myself just to protect my memories, just to remain sane, just to be here on this planet and survive. Because if I remember too much, I wouldn't want to be here at all. And I know it's time for these veils to be lifted, Laura. And there's nothing I want more than that. This is my destiny. Whatever destiny means, it's my purpose. I'm not done here. And this is why the trilogy was written, to become a map for the collective human consciousness. And Cosmoluminous is about now walking into that map and finding my own footsteps. I'd hoped so much to do that with you as partners. It is what it is. In one way or the other, even if it has to be in the dream worlds as Kanu and Lyra. This is our destiny, too. So I don't know why I feel to share this with you today. Remember last time we talked, I asked you if you would do a soul reading for me. And maybe this is part of it. Is any of this real? Or is it all some kind of illusion, fantasy, stories from someone who finds it hard to be on this earth, who's never felt comfortable in the normal world, whose comfort was in surrender and the Great Mother, whose home was the sky and the earth. I couldn't always find my home inside my own heart. And so I often retreated into a dream world, maybe even a fantasy world. And I want to know if this is a fantasy world or if there truly is a purpose that I haven't discovered yet, that is part of my destiny on this earth, where I have a role to play with or without you, that will help the evolutionary journey of this beautiful planet, Gaia, this beautiful creation that spans the dimensions and universes, is why I'm here. If it is true what I feel that you are my twin flame, you share that same journey. You are on that same path. It's part of your soul memory, going back into forever. I suppose I want to be as present as possible to that destiny. It's much bigger than me. There's so much I don't understand, Laura. So much I want to understand. And if this is my time, I want to fulfill what it is I came here for. Remember, I told you in my last message that perhaps it is my soul destiny to take the rainbow body in this incarnation, that have created the map, and on creating that map, have created some kind of a cellular knowing. But if so, it would require deep initiation of some sort to awaken that memory in a way that permeates all the five bodies, brings the total embodied soul presence. And so, yes, I want to know what my soul destiny is. Not fantasies, with mission, concrete, living step by step and day by day, moment by moment, walking this path of embodied soul presence. This is what the medicine journeys are about. Also, I was hoping or I intend that this path open up some of these doorways. The times that we've journeyed together, Laura, and the time I journeyed with the mother, thinking of you, have been so rich. And there's something I feel beyond this veil that wants to slip in. I don't know what my next step is. I could easily just leave. Remember what Saint Germain said to Patricia: do you want to stay or go? And she said, if I'm done here, I'm happy to go. If there's something for me to do, I'm happy to stay. So if there's something for me to do here, I'm happy to stay. I'm committed to staying. I'm committed to completion of this destiny. I'm committed, if it calls for that, to be an incarnation of Shiva. I remember when Grace and I were at the ashram, Sri Aurobindo ashram, many years ago, in the early years, maybe 2004. Yeah, it was the day of the, what was it called? The Siddhi Day, the day that Krishna entered into Sri Aurobindo as a living presence, after which he completely retreated into his room and would spend his entire time opening to that overmind and then supermind and then bringing that supramental consciousness in, because that was the work required at that time. It went on for decades until it was time for him to leave the body so he could then continue the work from the other side, allowing that supramental force to come into the earth through the mother in 1956, February 29th. And so when Grace and I were on the roof, it was the only place we could find. We climbed the tree up to the roof where we could sit. The whole courtyard was surrounded by people. And I prayed, Shiva, I'm ready. If it's my time, if I am to be an embodiment of that presence, the fullness that I am, I am ready. And then I forgot about that, or I didn't forget, it just kind of slipped into the corner of my mind. And then today, as I'm sharing this, that memory comes back. The memory even of when I was born and my mother saw me as a gift and offered me as my life as a gift to God. I wasn't hers. I belonged to God. 7 years old, my poem, where God and nature and mankind meet. There I journey with tired feet. Already I was feeling so tired. To create a world as best I can where man lives with nature and God lives with man. This has been my prayer all along. God, give me a burden I cannot lift by myself because I knew the mother needed to be there with me in order to lift it for me. Use me, melt me, mold me, fill me, use me. Feels so hard sometimes. I feel so alone sometimes. And I know I'm in my mother's hands, even when my heart breaks open, even when I find it so difficult to be here. So, my prayer to the mother right now is to use me the best way I can so I can become the bridge between the worlds, so I can anchor the supramental force into the body of this earth, into the collective consciousness of humanity in the way that I can, whatever way that might be, with whoever I'm supposed to be with. I do know it's not a journey I can do on my own. So I'm sharing this story with you, Laura. I'm sharing this story with the Great Mother, whose memories are alive in me, so they can become more consciously alive, so I can become more consciously embodied, to remember, to serve, to love, to become that bridge at this time in the best way I can, in the highest way I'm capable of. My heart wide open, my soul surrendered. With all my limitations and all my fears, all my humanness, and all my divinity, help me part this veil for myself, for all humanity, and dare I say, for the entire universe. And Sri Aurobindo spoke about the seventh universe, the creation of the seventh universe, beyond the spirals of death and rebirth, creation and destruction. There's a new spiral of awakening that continues forever, where the memory of creator consciousness is forever imbued in all dimensions of creation, where that veil of Maya is parted forever, where evolution and involution have become one. Creation and creator recognized each other's face, Shiva and Shakti, have become one. This is my prayer today. Great Mother, I am ready to embody the consciousness of Shiva. I'm willing, I don't know if I'm ready, but I'm willing. Be thou with me through this journey, now and forevermore. Be with my sweet Laura, whatever ways that she is part of this journey as well. Awakening her soul memories, her path of destiny, whatever that might be, as we journey into this potential of the seventh universe. Aho.